Hello and welcome back to Toy Thursday with Johnny Tiger on July 13th, 2023. Um, in front of you on the screen, at least I hope he's on the screen. I never know. When you are doing this blind, you never quite know how it's going to turn out. But if I did it right, in front of you, you should be looking at a wrinkly little, squatty little goblin-like creature. And those of you who really were geeks, you would know this guy as a dungeon master. Now, dungeon master obviously is a term commonly used in role-playing games and tabletop games. To those of you who are uninitiated, the dungeon master is a guy. Like, so when you sit down around the table to play Dungeons and Dragon or Shadowrun or whatever, the dungeon master or game master is the guy who knows all the rule. Is the guy who is the main MC, I guess you can say, the master of ceremony for the game. So the dungeon master is the person who decide where the story is going and what are supposed to happen, what things happen, and design the adventure and all that stuff. So when you sit down at that table and play Dungeons and Dragons or other similar role-playing game, the dungeon master is just as the title indicates, the master. The Dungeon Master also was a character from the old Dungeons and Dragons cartoon back in the 80s, and as we are shown here, this little old creature that kind of remind us a little bit of Yoda from Star Wars. Um, this is made by Hasbro and just came out like last year, I believe. And it actually was a little bit hard to get him. I had to go to Hasbro's Hasbro Pulse website and buy him in a two-pack with Venger, the main villain from Dungeons and Dragons. Uh, Actually, Venger is quite a cool-looking figure. I will probably do a review of Venger and Dungeon Master in the future time, but today Dungeon Master is opening the show for us because it is Celebrate Your Geekness Day today. And those of us who are into action figures, those of us who are into video games, even those of us who are into uh, playing instruments sometimes, can be sometimes labeled as geek. Uh, I remember back when I was 17, 16, I went to a summer camp and uh, there was this girl there that she really didn't like me, and then she told everybody that I was a geek, uh, mostly because I was one of the guys that was helping around the computer lab, helping people how to use the computer. So I guess she put me in the geek category. Uh, I was really offended back then, but nowadays, you know what? I don't mind. I don't mind being a geek. I celebrate my geekness. I love action figures. I love games. I love anything related to history and culture and music and entertainment. So if that's making me a geek, I'm a geek. That's fine. So because we are celebrating this day of embracing your geekness, today is when we can stand tall and be proud that we are different from the mainstream. We're different from everybody. We enjoy what we enjoy, and we bring some color and joy into life itself. Embrace Your Geekness Day was founded by the Wildcat holiday. I don't know when it started actually, but uh, it also was said founded by Ruth Roy um, and uh, her husband. I assume maybe those are the people that founded the Wildcat holiday. There's really not a lot of information on this day, which is why while we open the show with Embrace Your Geekness Day with the Dungeon Master, this is not the main segment we're going to be looking at today. When I was researching the Embrace Your Geekness Day, I came across something that said today was also International Rock Day, and this was interesting. So obviously I clicked on it, wanted to see because I thought it was like rock, as in guitar, leather jacket, that kind of like rock and roll kind of thing. But no, it's actually is International Rock Day, as in the case of rock from the ground, rock like the earth we are standing on. Did you know that human beings have been using rock as of 40,000 BC? That's when we first started crafting tools and weapons out of stones, and that gave us a definite edge in survival. So while rock in itself seems kind of useless and boring, it's undeniable that rock is one of the nature's greatest gift to humankind. It saw us through over 40,000 of evolution, and even today, we still trade in gems and gemstones, and diamonds, and all those stuff that basically, when you think about what they are, they're rock. Rock also is still used in art. I have been working a lot with tiger eye stones and crushed jade, so I feel a very strong connection to rock right now. And of course, in building material. So while rock, again, sound boring, I think an International Rock Day is definitely warranted. Sadly, I could not find any information on who started this and when did it get started. It just seemed to be one of those really obscure days, but I do have a couple of action figures that really fit into our International Rock Day theme that I will show you guys today. His name is General Traag. He is a stone soldier. Well, an alien stone soldier from an alien dimension. And his name is Sergeant Granitor, and he is also a stone soldier, an alien rock from an alien dimension. These two honking rocky guys, uh, are from the Ninja Turtle cartoon from 1987, and they were made by Neca, either early last year or late 2021, I believe. And their story, uh, their backstory is pretty much as simple as they appear to be. Uh, the story goes that the warlord Krang, you know that brain guy, that guy who's just a brain in the Ninja Turtle cartoon, when he was the ruler of Dimension X in his home world, he used his mutagen, the same mutagen that transformed the turtles. He used the mutagen on the rock of that planet, and that allowed him to create these giant rock soldiers that would do his bidding. The Rock Soldier first appeared on episode 4 of season 1 of the 1987 cartoon when Shredder and Krang was opening this portal to Dimension X, and Granitor and Trog came through the portal, and they were chasing these little teenager aliens called neutrinos, and neutrinos ended up working with the Ninja Turtles, and Trog and Granitor, of course, they were really happy to be reunited with their warlord Krang. And in the end of the episode, they were sent back through the portal to uh, be trapped on Dimension X. Uh, so throughout the long history of the Ninja Turtles, the Stone Soldiers, the Rock Soldiers, they have appeared and reappeared multiple times, being brought to Earth either accidentally or intentionally by Krang or Shredder. But every single time they ended up being sent back to Dimension X, either by tricked by the Ninja Turtles or trapped on Dimension X because they were there to do the biddings of Krang or Shredder, and things didn't go as planned. So mostly these guys are not very complicated. They're big, they're pretty dumb, they're rather scary, super strong, almost impossible to injure because uh, they're literally living piles of rock. Now, I will I will take this chance to just rant a little bit about how annoying these NECA Ninja Turtle figures are. The figures themselves are great. Don't get me wrong. Like the figures are really really great. I'm so happy that we're getting Ninja Turtles again, so I can sort of relive my childhood a little bit. And these figures are so much better than the old Ninja Turtle action figures in the 90s. So yeah, the figures themselves are great. But trying to get them here in Canada, oh my lord. Oh my lord, trying to get them here in Canada is frustrating. Yes, you can try to get them from Toy Snowman and Redshift 7, and if you are really desperate, there are some like CMD toys that you can get them from their website. But the price is ridiculous, the availability is ridiculous. It like, guys, honestly, you got such a great line going. Why are you hampering those of us in Canada getting them? Um, Even in the States, a lot of these are Target exclusive, which means you need to shop at Target. You need to go to a Target store, and hopefully that particular Target store happen to have these guys on shelf, and you need to get them before other people get them. Like it's just a nightmare trying to acquire these guys. This is why I actually been thinking about selling off my Ninja Turtle collection on and off, like just wanting to quit. Because while I really love them, it's just so difficult to acquire them. Okay, rant over. Let's continue. First, I'm going to bring your attention to just how big these rock soldiers are. Both of them came in a two-pack. You get both of them in one box. Let me tell you, that box was pretty heavy. These guys look like rock, and they kind of feel a little bit like rock too. Uh, they're not super tall. Like if I bring in, usually I wait until the end to do size comparison, but since we're talking about height, let me bring in Captain America so you guys can see. So this Captain America made by Hasbro, I've been using him a lot because he's like a very standard human-sized character. Granted, Captain America is like pretty big for a human, but it's still like very good mark for uh, measuring human-sized character. So as we can see on the screen, Captain America is almost the same height as General Traag, and Sergeant Granitor in the back there is slightly taller. So these guys are not super tall. They are like average human height, and that makes sense because if you look at their bio on the website, then they are supposed to be just like 6 feet tall. So they're not giant. But when you get them to actually pick Captain America up like this, like he's about to throw him, you can really appreciate how big these dudes are. Like their body are so wide and thick that they really have quite a shelf presence. In fact, they are so wide I can't even fit both of them side by side in my admittedly limited filming space here on the counter. So that's why I have to stagger them. Otherwise, I can't get both of them on here in the frame. Um, So yeah, these are big, chunky boys. And even if we bring in some obviously large character like the Incredible Hulk, we can see that yeah, Incredible Hulk is taller, but Sergeant Granitor here is definitely just as wide, if not actually wider and thicker than Incredible Hulk. In addition to being thick and wide, these two are very heavy as well. Like when I got the box in hand, don't forget there's two of them in the box, and I was shocked at how much that box weighed. That box must have weighed like 3 pounds, and each one of these guys, even though they are not real stone, they are made of plastic. They are really dense and really solid. Like these are action figures that can injure someone if you throw them at somebody. Now, both guys do share a lot of the same body mode. Um, they're they're basically the same figure from the waist down, and maybe the upper torso the same too. They definitely have different arms. Uh, uh, Trog, General Trog, the one in the front on the right hand side there. He or sorry, the one on the left hand side, the one standing in the front. Anyway, now he has a more spiky uh, kind of formation, rocky formation on his shoulder and his arms, and his head is not as elongated as Sergeant Granitor. Granitor is taller mostly because he looks like he has a longer neck. He also has like a face that looks like a bird's beak, and he has these giant blocky arms, like it's smoother, it's not as jagged as the general, but definitely huge. Like his shoulders just have this huge rocky formation on them that make him look really intimidating. Now, since they are rock soldiers, obviously they're not going to be very nimble, so the articulation is a little bit lacking, but good enough for what they are. Like these guys, really, all they need to do is be able to aim their weapon and grab their opponent and bash their face in and stuff like that. They don't really need to be jumping around, getting into ninja poses. As we can see, that Sergeant Granitor uh, they both have the same articulation, so I'm just going to use Granitor. We have been seeing a lot of the general since the beginning of the video, so we're going to leave the general in the background there and looking at the sergeant. So his articulation is actually cool enough that he can cross his massive arms over his chest like this and look pretty imposing. Now, there's no crunch in the torso whatsoever. Like these guys, there's no crunching. Uh, they are able to turn from side to side. There are waist articulation, but I want to caution you guys that the belt and the holster for the guns are glued on pieces. So when you're messing around with the waist articulation, be very careful. So those things might start falling off. I already have to wire the general's holster back onto his hip because it fell off. Let me show you that. And he just fell over. Uh, right here. The holster on the hip here, it actually fell off, so I have to do some Mickey Mousing to wire it on with a twisty tie, so it will still be able to hang there. I mean, the plus side is, he's not going to be that noticeable, especially when he's on the shelf. It just kind of annoys me because these things, in addition to being hard to get, they're not cheap either. Like for the two of these, for this 2 pack, I think I paid almost $100 Canadian. They do have these annoying tiny little legs that sometimes makes them really hard to pose uh, because the body, the upper torso, it's so huge. Actually, did I just? No, I thought I sensed a abdominal crunch, but no, it's just a bit of a wobble there, but you can't do much with it. Um, so like I said, these look how small these legs are. Let me bring in the sergeant, and here is the sergeant's arm right next to the general's leg. They give you an idea of how tiny the legs are compared to their arm. Okay, so these legs are very small. Well, for them anyway. Like compared to a regular size action figure, these legs are fine. But for them, because their upper body and arms are so big, these legs are really small. And there are some articulation in it, but it's really stiff in the knee joint. And uh, you might want to heat it up with a hair dryer before you mess around with it. Now, what really annoyed me is the hip is super loose. Not like so loose that, it doesn't flop around when I shake him. But when you try to stand him on the counter on the display, these legs tend to slowly spread out like this. Like their weight will push their leg down. And yeah, like just like that. So, they eventually look like they're trying to do a split, not a good look for rock soldiers, right? So keeping them standing is a little bit challenging sometimes. Because both of them are so big and hefty, they really don't come with a lot of accessory. They each come with a laser gun that can either be holstered on their hip or be held in their hand. And then there's this tiny little communicator that they use to communicate with Shredder and Krang. Uh, this thing is tiny, so be very careful with it. If you drop it, uh, if the cat or dog get a hold of it, it's gone. If a kid get hold of it, it's choking hazard. Like this thing is smaller than the fingernail on my son. It's really small. So be very careful with that piece. It's actually making me very nervous because if it fall off the counter, I will never find it. There's also this little canister. I'm not quite sure what that's supposed to be. Maybe it's a can of mutagen or some kind of weird grenade thingy that they can hold in their hand. But yeah, other than that, these guys don't really come with much. And honestly, they're so big and bulky. Uh, I'm happy with them just the way they are. Honestly, I love strange, weird creature. That is one of the reasons why I love Ninja Turtles so much. Is all the weird creatures in them and like walking big rock creatures uh, are just really cool. So personally, I love these guys, even though they didn't really give me much of an impression in the cartoon. There's not much to their story. Their designs are very simple. Oh yeah, for those of you that can't see the screen, I also want to mention that uh, aside from the head and the arms being different on these guys, they also are painted different color. Uh, the sergeant here in the front, he has a more like a cool, cold, like a gray rock color, like a gray piece of rock. The guy in the back, the general here, um, yeah, he actually does look kind of smaller, doesn't he? No less impressive, but he does look smaller. The general is painted this really cool red orange, like hot lava rock, like magma. Really cool color. So even though I personally can't enjoy them, uh, I do know that they are painted different and they look pretty unique. So that concludes our International Rock Day for looking at these rock warriors. I hope you guys have fun, and we'll be back again tomorrow for some Fitness Friday.